And we're on to section 4 of the summer season blanket. And this is a bit of a change from all the squares that you've been making. We've got a deep border coming up in a stitch called block stitch, which will be a nice contrast, as I think, to the squares of the centre. Turn the blanket to the reverse side, so it's on its wrong side uppermost, and you're just going to make a round of treble clusters to start. I'm using this same colour that I used to join the squares in the middle because I thought it was time that was coming back in to, it's always nice to tie colours together. So I'm using it again here. I've attached my yarn in the corner of the blanket, chain 2 and 2 trebles, which is just a normal treble cluster, and then treble clusters in each space along the side of the blanket. It's very easy, and the fact that it's done on the reverse side just helps to keep the blanket edges straight. So I'm just coming along here, and I'm going to show you what happens when I get to the point where 2 of the squares from the previous section are up against each other. Okay, I'm just about there. Now, if you've done my patterns in the past, you will know that when you come to a point where you've got 2 squares that are adjoining, you don't put 3 trebles in the corner and then 3 trebles in the next corner, because you would end up with too many clusters of treble stitches, and it would increase the circumference of the blanket, which in turn would start to make it bumpy and wavy. So in the past, I suggest that you treble 1 in the corner and then treble 2 together and from one corner to the next, and then finish off the cluster with a treble 1 in the second corner. This time I'm going to do something easier, and I've kind of I've shied away from doing this before because I felt that it maybe wasn't too secure, but this time I think I'm going to give it a go, and I think it will be fine. So all I'm going to do is just put a treble cluster into the gap between one square and the other. This is the gap that is formed when you're making the join as you go stitch. You've got the slip stitches, but there is a reasonable gap between each slip stitch. And all I'm going to do is put 3 treble crochet stitches in that gap. And on to the next. With 3 treble crochets. So I'll show you what it looks like. And there's your treble 3 just sitting in the space between the 2 squares. So that's all you need to do. You just need to work around. There are quite a lot of joins at this bit, so you need to put that, make sure that you separate these 2 and put your 3 trebles in there. Work all the way around. When you get to the end of the side, it's treble 3, chain 2 and treble 3 in the corner as usual. Work all the way, and I'll see you when we're back at the point where we started. I've now worked all round all 4 sides, and I'm back to the point where I started, and of course that was half a corner that we made right at the beginning. So it's time to chain 2, put 3 trebles in, chain 2, and then slip stitch into the top of the first chain 2, and that is the first round of section 3 complete. I'm not going to fasten off because I'm staying with this colour, and I'm going to chain 2 ready to start the next round, and then turn the blanket over so it's now on the front. I've got a stitch marker here just to make it absolutely plain that we're on the front of the blanket. The chain 2 is now at the extreme right of the corner, so this time I'm going to put in a complete corner. So that's chain 2, treble 2, chain 2 and treble 3. And that's your first corner in complete. So remember that when you get back to this point. And then it's plain sailing all the way around. You just need to go into the next space with 3 trebles, and that's what you will do all the way around until you get back to where you started. Just like that. I've got some ends here that will be sewn in by the time I'm back, and I'll leave you to work round 2. Hello again, and now I've just completed round 3 of this section off the camera, but it's quite simple. This is a round of just double crochet stitches in each of the spaces and a chain 3 between each one. And what we're going to be doing now for the next few rounds is block stitch, and this is the foundation round for the block stitch. So I started in the corner with a chain 1 and then a DC1 in the corner. That's double crochet. In the US that's single crochet, of course. So it's chain 1, DC1, chain 3, DC1 in the next space, chain 3, DC1 in the next space, and so on. At the next corner it's DC2, chain 2 and DC2. So that takes you around and gives you the foundation for the block stitch. And I haven't turned the blanket for this round. It's on the front, as was the last round, and I'm going to keep the blanket on the front for all of the block stitch. So this was done in the dark pink, which we haven't used much so far in this blanket, but it's just a kind of an accent colour. And once that round is done, I'm going to be working with the deep purple, deep mauve, and into the corner as usual to start. We're back to working with treble crochet stitches again, and so we just need to chain 2 for the equivalent of the first treble, and I'll put 2 trebles in this corner. We just put 1 DC after the chain 1 in the previous round, but in this round I'm going to put 2 trebles and the chain 2, and then I'm going to skip over to the first chain 3 space. So that's where we're going to put our next group of 3 trebles. We're going to be doing clusters of 3 trebles in each of the chain 3 spaces. And another one. This is very simple, but it does lie nice and flat, and it does change the look of it. Although they're granny treble clusters, they change the look because you're working into the chain 3 spaces rather than into the gap between a previous row of treble clusters. So what you can see is happening is your treble cluster is sitting directly above the previous treble cluster, and that will happen for the next number of rows as we do the block stitch. So that's it. You just need to work round. This is row number round number 4 of this section. You just need to work around with the deep mauve until you're back at the beginning, and you finish off the corner with treble 3, chain 2 and slip stitch. So I'll leave you to do that, and then I'll be back to start the next round of the DCs, and again it will be on the same side. So I'll see you then. With round 4 complete, I'm not going to turn the blanket over, I'm going to keep it on the front, and it's time to do round 5, which is a repeat of this small double crochet round. And for this I'm going to pick up the variegated yarn. I think this will look quite nice as it changes colour in these little spots of colour as we go around the edge. So that's what's coming up next. Attach the yarn in the corner as usual, and I'll just start this off and then leave you to do the complete round. Chain 1 and 1 double crochet stitch in the corner, chain 3, and then 1 double crochet stitch in the next space, chain 3 and another double crochet. And that's all you need to do as you work around the sides of the blanket. It's DC2, chain 2, DC2 in each of the corners, and then you've just got this corner to finish off when you get back to it. So I'm going to go ahead and do that just now, and I'll be back with the start of the next round, and then after that it will just simply be repeating the rounds, the small DC round and then the treble cluster round, until we've got the amount that we need, and all the different colours are listed in the pattern. One thing I'll just say before I go, and that is why I've chosen to do this, because this is diverting a little bit from the winter season blanket. This is slightly different, and I'll explain it more in the introduction once the whole blanket is finished. But if you look at this now, let's see if I can pick it up here. I'm kind of repeating this part of the square where we've got the 3 treble stitches and the double crochet stitch. So I think that makes a reasonable comparison with the outside that we're doing here. That's the reason I've decided to use the block stitch, and I do think it will, the little points of colour that appear as we're making this will be nice and florally, if you like. So I'll see you when I've finished this round. And here we are back where I started, and that's the corner finished off. Hello again from my very sunny studio. Time has moved on since I was last here, and as you can see I've made quite a number of rows of block stitch. After the first 2 of the Parma Violet granny clusters, and then I started with the double crochet to start the block stitch, I made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rounds of the treble clusters and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rounds of the double crochet. And that is this section complete. Just a quick recap, and I'm not sure if I did this when I started the video for this round, but anyway, the very first round, which is done in this deep pink, and it's the double crochet chain 3, start it on the reverse of the blanket. So make that round on the reverse, and that way every treble cluster round will be on the front and every double crochet round will be on the reverse, and that way you get the continuity and it's looking nice and tidy. The pattern will tell you the list of colours for each round. And I finished with another round of Parma Violet, just to balance with the beginning. Now, something different happens, something similar and something different happens for the next part, because if I swing the blanket round, I'm going to show you what I did next, and that is to continue the block stitch, but using the plain pale green for 1, 2, 3, 4 rounds of the treble clusters and 1, 2, 3, 4 rounds of the double crochet and chain 3 rounds. But in all of those rounds, I didn't go all the way round the corner. So these rounds, the first lot of this section, go round the corner and you make all 4 sides of your blanket at one time. But for this section, I have stopped when I got to the corner of the blanket and then not continued around the other side. I've just come back. So I'm making straight rows backwards and forwards in the pale green. And there's a reason for that. So if I continue round, you will see that I've actually done 3 sides of this pale green, and the resulting little corner, which was left open, just like we did with this one back here, I've put in a really cute little square with a flower in the middle. And I'll show you that in just a minute as well. But first of all, I'm going to start this section of the pale green block stitch because there's just something slightly different to do. Now, as before, I'm going to turn my blanket to the reverse side to start the round with the double crochet. So just starting in the corner, and of course it so happens that this side has already got its rows of green, so it's already in the corner space, but I'm just going to start in that same corner space with my double crochet. So I'm going to chain 1 as usual, and oops, it's a tight one, chain 1 and DC 1 in that same corner space. So you actually have what looks like 2 stitches. You've got your chain 1 and your DC 1, and that's quite important. So that will start is the first stitch, chain 3 as usual, and DC 1 into the next space. So all you need to do is continue that along to the end of the row. I'll race ahead and I'll catch up with you at the end of the row, ready to turn and come back. So I'll see you at the other end. And just like that, I've got to the other end of this row. This is the corner that you will have, but of course I have already done my green on this side. So this is your corner, and I'm just going to put my last 3 chain stitches and then into the corner, and I'm going to put 1, 2 double crochet stitches in the corner. Then I'm going to chain 2, which is the equivalent of the treble crochet stitches for the next round, and I'm going to turn over. Now it's just getting a bit big and it's desperately trying to slip off the table, but we'll manage. And there I've done my chain 2, which is the equivalent of a treble crochet stitch, but that's not the first of the group of 3. That's a single treble crochet stitch, because I'm now going to go on and put in 3 treble crochet stitches in the next chain 3 space. Now, why is that first one not part of the 3? Because we need to create a little space here in order to do our last 2 double crochet stitches in the next row. So it's chain 2, turn, and then 3 trebles in the first chain 3 space. And then, of course, it's just a case of working along the row with 3 trebles in each chain 3 space. Now, the beauty of making 4, in fact, it's, when you think about it, it's 8 rows because you've got the small rows in between. But the beauty of making them separately on each side is it's maybe just, you know, it's just in my mind really, but you get the feeling that it's not so tedious. You're not going round all 4 sides with the same colour 8 times. You're just doing one side and then another side, and somehow it's more achievable that way, I think. And of course we're left with this space here, which I'll put this down. This will become the space for the next flower. And I will come back again when I've got to the end of this row and take you through the turn to go back to do the third row, the second row of double crochet. So I'll see you again once I've got to the end of the row. Right, I'm at the end of my row and I've just got 3 more treble crochet stitches to make in the last chain 3 space. Now remember, we started with the chain 2, which was separate from the other 3 treble crochets, so it looks like 4 treble crochets at the beginning. We're going to do that again at the end. And remember, when you did your chain 1 and your DC 1 in the first row, we've got a little space between the 2, and that's where I'm going to put my last treble crochet stitch. Now the point of that treble crochet stitch is to give you a nice straight edge going down the side, so that it's going to be a nice straight edge to attach the square to when we come to fill in the corner. So that's the end of row 2. So it's chain 1, because of course we're going back to the DC round, and turn. And in between that treble 1 and the first block of 3 trebles, I'm going to put in a DC 1. So that was again the chain 1 and the DC 1, and then off we go again, 1, 2, 3, and DC 1 in the next space. So you have a total of, like I said, 1, 2, 3, 4 rows of the treble clusters, and again 1, 2, 3, 4 rows of the DC 1 chain 3 rows. Once that's complete, then we've got the square to fill in.